Oh, creatine. So here's something that I've been taking for forever. It used to be like gym pumps or whatever. I read something online recently that, it's like it has cognitive benefits. Is that true, or is that creatine being like, hey, we need to market harder?
No, it's definitely true. I'm probably responsible for that, whatever you read on my podcast.
You might have been. That might have been why I noted it here in the show notes.
It's funny, creatine has been around forever. I have not taken it forever. I started taking it, I would say like 2 years ago, year and a half to 2 years ago, because that's when I started to really get into strength training and resistance training. I also have a coach, and I'm deadlifting. I'm doing Olympic Olympic weightlifting and stuff. And so I started taking creatine around then for my muscle. And if you look at all the data out there, 5 grams a day is what you really need to have, improved muscular performance. And so people listening going,
you said 5 grams?
Well, yes, but don't it's going to go, we're going to expand on that. I'm saying that's what I was taking in the past tense. So,
yes.
So creatine is something that our body does make. We make about 1 to 2 grams in our liver. And we also make something similar like that in our brain as well. It's very important because creatine gets stored in our muscle, in our brain as creatine phosphate. And creatine phosphate is essentially donating a phosphate group so that you can make energy. So phosphates, it's called ATP. You probably heard of ATP before, adenosine.
Oh, I remember that from maybe middle school, high school.
Well, ATP is the energetic currency in our body, right? That's energy. Without ATP, we would die. We couldn't make energy. And ATP is essentially adenosine triphosphate. There's 3 phosphate groups on it. You need to add those phosphates. So every time you use energy, you use one of those phosphates. You have ADP, adenosine diphosphate, 2 of them. So then you have to add one back to make energy again. So you want to keep recycling it, right? So that you can have energy. Creatine phosphate is essentially doing that. It's storing that phosphate to give you the energy, right? So it's why your muscles love it, particularly when you're working out, because you're using up so much energy and you need to recycle it really quickly, right? And so that's why creatine comes in handy. So the creatine that you make from your liver, your muscles are very, very greedy, and they consume most of that creatine because they're largely like using a lot of energy. And so there have been studies that have found if you supplement on top of what your body makes, 5 grams is really enough. At 5 grams, your muscles start to get saturated, at least over a course of a month. They get saturated like that. That's enough. So they take in the 5 grams that you're supplementing with, and they're great. And that will improve your training volume. So it's not going to like increase muscle protein synthesis, like in the way protein would, where you're, gaining muscle mass. It's making you work out better. And that's why you're gaining muscle mass, right? Because you're performing better with your exercise. Yeah. It's improving training volume. Yeah. So you're doing 3 reps, you're doing an extra like 1 to 3 reps per set. Okay. So that all said and done, I was doing the 5 grams a day because that's what all the science showed is like what you need, and your muscles are saturated after that. Then it turns out more and more researchers out there in the creatine field were looking at other organs, and particularly, the brain. And that's something I'm super interested in, as you know, brain health. And there was a study out of Germany showing that it takes about 10 grams before you start to accumulate creatine in certain brain regions. 5 grams, I just told you, your muscles are greedy. They take it all in. And so if you're only supplementing with 5, that's great for your workouts, right? It's great for improving your training volume. But what's left over for the brain? There's not a lot of spillover, right? And so you have to get to that like 10 gram range. And it wasn't until about 10 grams that creatine storage were be seen to increase in brain regions. And so that's kind of like why now I've shifted from 5 to 10 grams a day as my baseline.
Okay.
And there have been some other studies that have found that, creatine works. It's not just like you take creatine and like sit around and do nothing and it's going to like do all these miracles. It works well when you're putting in effort. It works well when you're stressing your body. So exercise is a type of stress, right? You're stressing, you're using the energy. It's helping replenish that, right? Same goes for the brain. It works well in a stressed context. So stress could be in the form of sleep deprivation, like you're not getting enough sleep, or your work-related stress or emotional-related stress. I personally have a lot of cognitive stress every day. I mean, like I'm learning a lot of material. It's very stressful on me. So I think that I'm stressed constantly in that regard. I feel like my brain's constantly stressed. But that's where the creatine shines. And so studies have found, for example, people that are sleep deprived, if they supplement with between 20 to 25 grams of creatine, depending on their body weight, not only does the cognitive deficits that usually appear when you're totally sleep deprived not appear in people that took the creatine, they actually performed better than their baseline levels, like when they were actually getting enough sleep, which is astounding.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, your brain consumes a lot of energy as well. It's a very energetically demanding, muscle, right? So it makes sense that creatine would be very beneficial for the brain as well, particularly when there's stress around, right? That's when you need extra energy, when there's stress around. And so like I said, my 10 grams a day is my baseline. One, based off of that German study where I know it's accumulating in the brain. Two, because my anecdotal data has shown me that if I take 10 grams a day, I don't get afternoon sleepiness at all anymore.
Oh man, I need that. Everyone just perked up at that.
It really, look, it could be a placebo effect. I'm not going to discount that. It's very possible. I've done it, where I've only had my 5 grams and I get the sleepy, and I've done it so many times. And like I said, it could totally be placebo because I know. I'm like, oh, I didn't get the 5 grams. But there's plausible mechanistic data out there to explain why it would work as well. And so I think that it's very possible that's why I'm not getting the afternoon sleepiness anymore. And when I'm traveling and I go to a different time zone, I just got back from China like a month ago. I take 20 grams and it's life-changing. It's a huge game changer for me.
Like every day while you're over there? No,
I took it for like the first 3 to 4 days. But like when I first got to China, we're talking like your body wants to be asleep when it's awake and awake when you're asleep. And when I first got to China, I had to get up the next day and give a talk. I had to like go do Q&As. I had to like be on my game. And I was like, this is when I'm supposed to be sleeping. And I was able to really I was doing a great job. I was like very cognitive on my game, and I took my 20 grams, I had like my 1 cup of coffee, and I was great. So for me, it really helps with just being able to perform well and again, maybe it's placebo, but there's studies showing that it has been shown to do that.
Yeah.
Yes, there's small studies.
It's so cheap. Just take it. Like this is such a cheap supplement you can get and mess with for yourself and see if it works. And even if it's placebo.
Well, let's talk about that because for one, obviously all the gym bros out there already know this, like creatine monohydrate, right? Like that's the form you have to take. And I would say, yes, that is the form you should take. It's like the one that's 100% going to work. With that said, you do want to look for a legitimate brand. So for one, don't take gummies. Okay. Like this study just came out, I don't know, a couple months ago. Like 98% of all creatine gummies out there had no creatine in it. Like 0.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah, 0.
No surprise.
Well, if you talk to any supplement manufacturers and ask them, hey, how easy is it to dissolve, supplements into a gummy? And they're going to be like, it's so hard. It's so hard to dissolve it, and to actually get it to dissolve into the gummy. And then you have to heat it up, and like things are heat sensitive and all sorts of like problems occur. So don't take gummies. 2, I think you should look for an NSF certification on it because, there are a lot of creatine powders out there that have little hitchhiking heavy metals like lead that get into it. And so I take Thorne because it is NSF certified as well. I'm sure there's some other brands out there. That's the one I take. I also like them because they have travel packets, 5-gram travel packets. And so every time I'm traveling, I have all my packets with me, and I'm taking my 4 packets a day.
Yeah. You don't want to bring a giant bag of white powder through TSA and have to explain that. I've done that many times, and I label it creatine. Yes. And it's worked so far with my Sharpie on there. So, but it's only a matter of time till my luck runs out, I think, on that.
Right.